Welcome back to another featured illustrator interview. My name is Tamika Grooms, and I am the Design and Illustration Manager for SCBWI. Today, I will be interviewing our featured illustrator of the month, Cynthia Cliff. Cynthia, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so happy that you could join us. I'm so happy that I'll get to learn more about your work, and congratulations on being the featured illustrator for this month.
Thank you, Tamika. I'm really excited to share my work and to talk more about my process. And thank you so much.
Okay.
So excited.
Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I will be showing some of your work today, but before we get into that, I really want to know a lot more about your process and your inspiration, because when I was viewing your work, what I noticed is that you used a lot of textures and details, and in your backgrounds of some of your images, it's very, you have a tonal use of color. So I want to know more about your process and what inspires your work. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I'm entirely self-taught, and so I probably break a lot of rules, which I think is fine. But I use gouache and crayons and colored pencil and things like that. And I use Procreate and I combine the two. So I will do a gouache painting. For instance, this is a painting that has a tree and textures at the bottom, and I will take that and add it to Procreate, either the whole illustration or just parts of it. So like, this is that same tree and all the textures at the bottom. And so that's the way I combine the two. And sometimes I'll do just textures on piece of paper and scan them and then use that as a background. And then recently, this is new for me, probably not you or other people, but I started doing the drawing in Procreate first. So it's like traditional work where you use tissue paper and you transfer. I do all of that in Procreate so I can scale and play with the layout and the composition very quickly and easily. And then I'll print that out on watercolor or heavy-ish smooth paper like this. You know, this is a printout of a drawing. And then I'll paint right on the printout. And then I can scan that and put it into Procreate and then combine it into a bigger illustration. So, and that's exciting, and I'm still figuring that out. So that's how I work.
Do you have a special printer that you use?
I wouldn't say it's special. It's a good printer. It's an Epson printer. It's not big enough. So I wish it were bigger, and maybe I'll invest in that at some point. But it does. Usually I scan at 600 DPI. So, it's a decent printer. I mean, scanner. So my printer should be bigger too, because then I wouldn't have to print out the little pieces and put them together like if I had a bigger printer. Anyway, technology.
Mhm. So you work relatively small, and maybe when you need to, you piece things together to make a bigger image.
Yes, if I have to. Yeah, yeah.
Um, uh, so tell me a little bit about how you came to that process, because it sounds like you started mostly traditional, and then your work evolved a bit.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I started drawing and making art in 2016. And at the time it was a hobby. And I started with colored pencils because that's what I had in my home. My children's art supplies is what I started with. And I did that for a couple of years, and just figured out drawing. I think that was a really good way to start because the technology wasn't in the way. Like I could just figure out the drawing and the art making part. And then in 2019, I got an iPad because I was having a lot of back problems. I think that's probably common with artists and illustrators. And the iPad allowed me to sit in different places and to even lie down, just like heal my back. And so it was easy to use, and there were a lot of advantages because you can put things on layers and You didn't need to scan anything the way that I was doing before. But combining the two is really works really well for me. And I have the best of both worlds. I get all the textures and the kind of odd mistakes that happen that are so beautiful. And then I can put it in Procreate and create layers and change things and play around with color. A
Yeah.
long answer, but
No, it's wonderful. And one of the things that that you just touched on, you talked about, learning to really hone in on your skills. And then it sounds like you started to emerge into the process of learning how to tell stories. And what I really appreciated about your work is that there's select images that I would look at and I could see, okay, there's a story there. It's not just a beautiful image. There's a question that I asked, like, what happened before? What is going to happen? But that one image is like that one in between place that holds all the questions. And so I think that's a good sign of a wonderful storyteller. And I know that's something that you develop over time, but it's so much beyond just knowing how to draw when you're an illustrator.
one of the questions you had was about when did I join SCBWI and why? Um, so in 2016, I started drawing, and by 2017, I could see the storytelling was happening. And I started to entertain the idea of being a book illustrator or an illustrator of some kind. And so I started searching for help, like, what does this mean? What do I do with this? Like, it's so fun and exciting. And it's like, I want to do it all the time. Like, somebody's got to be able to tell me like what to do. And so I Googled for a club or or a group or something, like somebody out there, and that's how I found SCBWI in 2017. I never even knew what it was, and so I saw that there was a local conference just like less than a month away, and I went to that in the fall of 2017. And I was like, I found my people right away. Like, I could feel it. Like, I knew it was the place to be. And since then, I've learned so much from this group. It's been really valuable for me.
Can you tell me a little bit about what inspires your illustrations?
I bet most illustrators will say that do books for children, their childhood. I think almost all of us will say that because all of those strong memories and emotions and feelings and relationships are large in our minds. It's how we developed and became people. And so we feel the desire to share that, or to share like lessons learned, like what we know now as adults about those feelings and about those experiences. And that's a big part of what, I get inspiration from. Also, the natural world, nature is big for me.
Very good. I'm going to share my screen really quickly.
Okay.
Hopefully I can do this easily. And because I want to go to your website. Now, your website is cynthiacliff.com. And hopefully you can see my screen here.
I can.
I wanted to share this so that people really understand some of the things that we've already been talking about. You just touched on your inspiration. This is the image that we actually chose to be our featured image for the website. And what I really enjoyed about this work, again, the tonal background that I really enjoyed, but you're telling a story with these very few characters that stand out in the front of the image, where they pull out away from the background. And then there's this little girl, and she's telling a story, and she has all of these characters that are in her tent that she's reading stories about, and then it's like the animals are actually listening to her. So I thought it was a wonderful image that told a story, and I'm glad that we were able to feature that.
And Tamika, excuse me, but that is a childhood memory.
mm,
Blanket tents, right? I don't know if you did that when you were a child, but
I did.
yeah. It was special, right? I mean, whether the animals were listening or not, I don't know, but that's where that image came from.
And so you grew up in Virginia? Is
Yeah,
that what I
yeah,
read about? Okay.
yeah, in the Shenandoah Valley.
Hmm. And so I'm assuming that there's a lot of that experience as a child being pulled into some of these images.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure, except that one.
There were no real bears in your
Not,
neighborhood.
well, actually, I do have a couple of bear stories, but maybe for another interview. I,
Okay.
I like followed a bear one time, and that wasn't a smart thing to do. I
That can get you in trouble
found
quickly.
out later.
Before we go, I want to ask you a couple more questions that I think is going to be really important to share with illustrators who are beginning the process. You know, there's a lot of ways that you can earn a living as an illustrator. Some people feel like they have to go all the way in, quit their jobs, and do the thing that they want to do, that they love to do. But there's ways that you can earn income in different ways. Can you tell us a little bit about the ways that you supplement yourself through your creative work?
Yes. I wasn't sure that I only wanted to do children's book, like, because I like to do a lot of different kinds of artwork. And I've been able to make art for products like puzzles. And I just finished 2 puzzles, and I make products too, like that I sell, you know, little cute bags. And I do some editorial illustration as well, for mostly for children, children's publications. Um, so that's kind of how I do it. I don't have an agent for that work, and so people find me, and I haven't had a lot of time to reach out because I am also working on books and have a day job. But those other little things are fun to do, and they do help supplement your income. And they all are related, I think.
I know that you also have a couple books on the market as well. So tell us a little bit about your books as well as how people can learn more about your work.
Um, yeah, the books in 2019, I had a art director email me on my birthday. It was like the best birthday present ever, and asked me if I wanted to do a baking book for children. And I'm like, yes, sure. And so I did that. And, it was like a year later. It came out in the spring of 2020. And then they liked working with me and asked me to do another book. And they looked at my work and talked to me about the topic and asked me if I could write and illustrate this book on gardening. And I did that. That's The Wild Garden that just came out this past spring. And the same art director is working with me again on another book that I'm working on now. I can't talk about, but it's large and it's complicated. And they're going to be, oh my God, cars and trains and things I don't usually draw, but I'm excited to try, and it'll work. And so that's how the books have been coming for me. What was your question? Does that answer it?
Well, yes, it actually did. And did you have an agent before you got that first book deal, or did the
Um,
agent come after the deal?
the agent came just after, because I knew that I needed someone to help me with the contract, and it was a European company. So the complications of the contract were pretty big.
Mhm.
Um, and then, and now I have an agent. So, and that's been great. Um,
And that agent can help you with foreign rights and anything that
oh yeah,
is beyond
yeah,
your. Yeah.
yeah. It's really nice too, because I make a lot of work, and I'm always making work, and she can help me sort through and edit my work too, because it's hard to see your own work sometimes and know what's, you know, she gives me good feedback. So
Yeah.
it helps me edit, like, for my portfolio, because I'm like, which things should I put up? And she's very good at helping me with that.
Mhm. Well, Cynthia, thank you so much. I want to know more about how we can find you online and follow your work.
Well, my name, Cynthia Cliff, is my website, and my Instagram is ccliff, CEE Cliff _art. My name was taken, and now that one is like out there and it's hard to change. That's how you can find me.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much for being here with us today, and I appreciate everything you've had to share.
Thank you, Tamika. I really appreciate it.